We have a great webinar lined up for this month. We have with us Clay Olsen. He is the founder of the organization called Fight the New Drug. We just wanted to remind everybody that we are recording this webinar, so it will be available within 24 to 48 hours on our website. So if you want to go back and watch it, it'll be there. Actually, Clay, introduce yourself. Who are you?
Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm always grateful to kind of come back to Nanny and do these webinars. And my name's Clay Olsen. I'm the executive director and founder of Fight the New Drug. Some of you may have heard of Fight the New Drug. Actually, I'd be interested if I could get a raise of hands if we were all in one room to see how many of you have heard of Fight the New Drug. But some of you know who we are and what we stand for and what we do. We're a youth-oriented nonprofit organization dedicated to raising awareness on the harmful effects of pornography, particularly among youth, teens. And we've been at it for, I guess, 5 years ago we were in college, some buddies and myself, and we just kind of saw the need for kind of an educational campaign. We were just like, not a lot of people wanted to talk about this issue, and we were kind of the exact opposite demographic that you would expect to be anti-porn. But we saw that there was a lot to this, a lot more than society was giving credit to this issue. We started doing a lot of research and found a lot of studies and science behind the harmful effects, and so we decided to naively jump into a world we didn't know much about and try to educate teens, and we've been doing that for about 4.5 years now.
Oh, great. So how long have you been doing this organization? How long has it been going, and have you been seeing quite a bit of success with it?
Yeah, so about 4.5 years, like I said, we've been kind of going, and it's been it's kind of been a tidal wave. We've just been kind of growing faster than we really can keep up. It's been awesome to kind of see the response from teens all across the country, all across the world, as we continue to get more traction, more attention on a national level and on an international level. The kind of response that teens are having, because a lot of people, when we got going with this, a lot of people kind of thought, well, good heavens, like, you're talking about a topic that nobody wants to touch with a 40-foot pole. You're young. I mean, what are you doing? My background's in film and marketing, and so I left a company that I had started to kind of pursue this. And so, for a lot of people, they were like, "What are you doing?" And but we saw a need. We saw this was something that needed to be addressed on a public health level. Needed to be addressed among teens, and in a new kind of vein. Differently than we had been addressing it in the past, and so we've seen a lot of success. Teens are jumping on board, joining the movement, and kind of changing attitudes and perceptions of not only themselves but also those around them. And it's really cool. It's really awesome to see that.
Okay, great. So the title of this webinar is "Fortify: Protecting Children and Teens from Pornography Addiction." I'm pretty sure we have many parents right now that are listening. What is kind of the presentation that you give for parents? What do you tell parents to help their children being protected from pornography and from the addiction that it causes?
Yeah, well, okay, so RJ, I think it'd be appropriate to confess right now. When RJ and I discussed doing this webinar, we really were going to focus around this new book that we've released called the Fortify. It is the Fortify book, A Step Toward Recovery, and it's kind of a program to help teens overcome their addiction to pornography, and that's really what this webinar was going to be about, kind of the details of what that book entailed. But and then Nanny sent out a survey to kind of ask questions of what they're looking for, what they need, and some of the questions that you guys have. Many of you listening right now submitted questions that you were hoping to get answered. And when I got those a couple days ago, and I was looking over the questions, and I thought, you know what, I definitely want to talk about Fortify. I definitely want to kind of help you guys understand what kind of a tool that can be. But I think that there is something that we could do that would be more appropriately address the concerns that you listeners have right now. And so we're going to change a little bit of what we had originally planned, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about those questions that you had, and to kind of give maybe just a little bit of a background for our organization. And kind of maybe some credibility to what we do. You can kind of see on the screen. I hope you guys can see on the screen. If you can't see the visuals that we're projecting up onto your computer, please let us know in the comments. And also, throughout this conversation that we're going to have over the next little while, please feel free to participate and be involved. Ask questions. RJ is going to do a great job at kind of keeping tabs on that. And if you have any questions, if I've gone through something too quickly, or if I'm going down a path that you prefer me to go down a different path, please let me know. I'm very flexible. I'm passionate about this cause, and if you let me go, I can just kind of keep battling. And so I'm going to ask you guys to help steer this conversation as well. But you can kind of see up here on the screen just a lot of different places that we've been. We've done over 100 public schools, which is a feat, because this is a topic that nobody, quote unquote, nobody wanted to talk about, right? This is a topic that we had individuals tell us, don't ever try to get into schools. You'll never get there. You'll never be able to do so. Public schools, they'll never let you in. And we've proven that wrong. We've been into, like I said, over 100 public schools throughout the United States, and several youth groups and community organizations have brought us to their groups. I just flew back from San Francisco. We've been in Virginia. We're going to British Columbia and Albany. We're going to Texas and Louisiana, and obviously in Utah and Idaho, just all over. And we have groups starting in Germany and in Israel and South Africa, and it's just kind of cool to see the movement grow. I tell you all this only to kind of illustrate the fact that we've talked to a lot of teens. And when we started this organization, Fight the New Drug, all we wanted to be was the megaphone for the cause. We thought, what? There's scientists, they're out there doing this stuff. Let's package their knowledge and what they're discovering into a way that's digestible for teens. Let's pull it out there, and let's kind of make anti-porn cool. And so that was what we were doing. But in the process of doing that, we've also just received emails from just tens of thousands of teens across the United States and across the world. And so we've learned quite a bit in that process. And so that's kind of the framework that you need to understand as we continue down through this conversation. Is we have learned what the teens are looking for, and kind of the gap between your generation, the parents' generation, and your children's generation. And so we've titled this presentation, or kind of what we're going to be talking about for a little while, what teens wish their parents knew when addressing the issue of pornography. We tried to make it as concise and short as possible. I think we did pretty well. Just kidding. It's a long title, but it really kind of covers what we're going to be talking about, and really it comes down to kind of 5 they wish you knews, and then that's what I call them. They wish you knew. Okay, so the number one thing that teens, we've surveyed them, we've talked to them, the number one thing that teens wish you knew when addressing the issue of pornography is that they wish you knew that porn can lead to an actual addiction. I underline actual, because we talk to a lot of parents who just kind of think that this is not all that different from when they were growing up, and we'll talk more about that. But we've learned more about the brain than we've ever known, and we're learning some things. So I want to actually dive into this a little bit. Some of you might know this stuff, and so, in fact, please, if you feel like this is kind of a repeat, I want to speed through it, and so please let RJ know so he can let me know. And RJ, obviously, feel free to ask questions as I go through this as well. I want to just validate some of these things from actual teens and from emails that we've received. So the first thing, like I said, is they wish you knew that porn can lead to an actual addiction. And here's an email that we received from a teen. And it says, "Please help me. I have been suffering from watching porn since I was 11, and now I am 15. Please, how do I stop this? I cannot tell my parents." Isabel, 15. Notice her gender and her age. Okay, this is a problem. 30% of the emails that come in asking for help in our organization are females. So this is not just a male issue. This is not just young boys. This is all of the above. Religious, non-religious, all of the above. Here's another one from a teen. "I am addicted. I know I need to stop. I want to stop, but I get upset or sad, and my brain says, look at porn, which I know is a horrible solution. I know." Jaron, 15. Here's another one. "This addiction has been horrible. I'm becoming numb to all the simple pleasures that I used to enjoy. I'm becoming depressed because of my own weakness, and every time I fall harder." Eric, 18. Just a couple more. "My life now would have been much different if my father had understood that pornography was a true addiction and that just stop wasn't an option." That's going to be a theme that we're going to kind of talk about throughout. Here's the last one. "I've been struggling with pornography for 3 years. I've thought of suicide as a result of this." Leo, 13. 13. So again, kind of do the math there. He was 10 years old, as he kind of indicated that his struggle or addiction kind of took full swing. Now, let's talk about this for a second in a historical sense. We've gotten things wrong in the past. I mean, we can all agree to that. I think that all those listening here, it says there's 113 of you listening right now. All of us can agree that we've gotten it wrong in the past regarding several things. For a quick example, cocaine toothache drops. And this is an ad that was actually catered for children back in the late 1800s, promoting and advertising cocaine as a viable solution for a toothache. And I think that those of you listening can kind of probably are taken back and saying, "Oh my heavens, are you kidding me?" Can we all imagine for a second, going to a doctor today and asking or having a toothache and saying, "Doc, I got this toothache, please help," and he, pulls out of his drawer some cocaine and says, "Hey, here you go. You're going to love this. It's going to make you feel great. It's going to make you forget you have teeth." I don't think that would occur today. In fact, I know it wouldn't, because we know better. We know now that cocaine is super harmful and can lead to addiction. But science had to catch up with truth. Remember that phrase. Science had to catch up with truth. It was always true that cocaine was harmful, but science had to catch up. Here's another example with alcohol. See, this is an ad that is telling mothers, nursing mothers with newborn babies, that they should drink more alcohol so that the benefits of the alcohol will pass on through their body and benefit the child. We don't do that anymore either, for obvious reasons. And yet one more example of how we've gotten it wrong in the past, just kind of set the stage for what we're going to be talking about later, is with tobacco. And tobacco, this didn't happen all that long ago. In fact, in 1938, Dr. Raymond Pearl, who you see up on your screen, this is a guy, he worked at Johns Hopkins University at the time, and he was the first guy, listen to this, the first guy in history to link lung cancer to smoking, tobacco. First guy. Now, at the time, as many of us know through history, that everyone pretty much smoked. And so what do you think happened after that? Billboards, statues, parades? No. His research never really saw the light of day. He died 4 years later. He never saw his research kind of hit mainstream because the tobacco industry, the Goliath at the time, squashed it. And it wasn't until later, and nearly actually 15 years later, in 1952, when the Reader's Digest magazine, who many of you know what that is, released an article called "Cancer by the Carton," which was kind of the first public attack on the tobacco industry, kind of indicating that there were harms, which launched a 40-year debate where hundreds of millions of dollars were poured into this debate of whether or not tobacco was in fact harmful or addictive. Now, a third grader could tell us otherwise today. By the time, this was a serious argument, and it lasted up until the 80s. So I tell you all this because we are in a similar learning experience today regarding pornography and the harms of pornography. You see, we know more about the brain than we've ever known. And with that brain, we're understanding what addiction truly is. So just to kind of recap for maybe some latecomers, the number one thing that your teens wish you knew is that porn can actually lead to an actual addiction. And what I hope for all of you listening, as you kind of leave this webinar today, I want you to be able to regurgitate this knowledge. I want you be able to kind of go out there and repeat how it's addictive, and not just say that it is. So briefly, I'm going to go through this. Inside each one of your brain. Now, this isn't going to be science, don't worry, it's not boring. This is actually incredibly interesting. Inside each one of our brains, every one of us have a brain, which is everyone, we have what we call the reward pathway. Okay, don't forget everything underneath that. Just remember the reward pathway. When you do something good, something that makes you happy, something that you enjoy. For instance, RJ, what do you enjoy? What do you like to do?
I really like to go on long runs.
Long runs.
That's so fun, I know, but it's something I enjoy.
Well, that's a perfect example. So when you go on a long run, RJ, and for any of those, you just apply whatever it is you like to do. Whenever you guys do what you like to do, pleasure chemicals like dopamine, that we've all heard of, get released into this reward pathway, and it makes you feel good, and it makes you want to repeat that behavior. You want to say, hey, this is good, this makes me feel good, I want to continue to do this. Okay, so that's just standard physiology. That's what happens in our brain. But the challenge here is that these same chemicals get released into the reward pathway when you're doing not so cool stuff like doing drugs or participating in addictive behaviors. And there's a difference, though. First of all, you're not releasing those chemicals into your brain naturally. You're forcing that trigger of release. Second of all, you're flooding that reward pathway to the point where your brain can't deal with that quantity, and it literally starts to rewire itself. Literally starts to change its actual physical presence to the point where actually through addiction, the frontal lobes of your brain can actually decrease in size. Do you know that? Your frontal lobes can actually decrease in size through serious addictions. Now, we wanted to kind of show you what that looks like. We got a friend of ours who suffered through several addictions in his life and got a brain scan, and you can kind of see what this can lead to right there. It's kind of, you can see that it just messes up your life. No, I'm kidding. Where are the frontal lobes for real in your brain? Where are they? Anyone have any idea? Okay, so the frontal lobes of your brain are located, just like the name suggests, in the front part of your brain, right there. Now, the frontal lobes, this is the control center of your body. This is where you make decisions. It's where you weigh up pros and cons, think through, a scenario, and kind of look at what it's leading to, and saying, okay, if I do this and this and this, it's going to lead to this. I want that, or I don't want that. And this is the part of your brain that addiction harms the most. Now think about that. It's no wonder that addicts have a hard time stopping their behaviors, even when they want to stop, because the part of their brain that's supposed to help them has been altered, changed, rewired. And many of you are thinking, well, how? Are you kidding? I don't smoke this. Regarding pornography, like, well, how? I don't smoke it. I don't drink it. I don't inhale it. You see, pornography goes in through the eyes, and it triggers a release of chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, epinephrine. These chemicals get released into the reward pathway, like we talked about earlier, and it floods the reward pathway to the point where, in order to just feel normal, in order to kind of maintain just a sense of normality, you need more of it, more often, and a more hardcore version, because your brain has literally kind of redefined its sexual set point, or it's kind of its normal standard. And that's the same with any other addiction. So what I hope you're understanding here is that when it comes to the brain, addiction is addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter if it's heroin, cocaine, or pornography. The brain responds the same way. Now, when it comes to the body, there's a lot of different variations with different drugs, of course. But when it comes to the brain, addiction is addiction. Does that make sense? I'm going to move on from the brain science. I'm not going to go back to that. So I hope that made sense. And if you have any questions, please let me know, and we can kind of like revisit some specifics of that. But your teams really are hoping that you understand that this is serious. This is no longer kind of the harmless pastime that perhaps many of us grew up thinking. So let's move on to the second they wish you knew. Are we good, RJ? Good?
Yeah,
any questions?
Looking good.
So the second they wish you knew has to do with the fact that today things are a little different. I've kind of hinted toward that, but they wish you knew that porn is different today than it was when you were growing up. Okay? We have a lot of parents talk to us about, well, you know what? Porn was around when I was young, and I'm fine. And we're like, oh boy. That's like comparing a cat to a dinosaur. I mean, today it is so much different, and it's so different from when you were growing up, and we'll kind of talk about that. We had a couple just quick emails from teens, kind of, porn is not just in magazines anymore. Shelley, 17. And my parents don't know how bad it really is. They think porn is just naked people. Today, porn is much worse than people with no clothes. Here's the last one. It's so in your face today, society accepts it, and so it's everywhere. Mason. So what do you think the main difference between your generation and your children's generation? I think that it's kind of a no-brainer that what has changed, but let's look at a timeline really quick. Of just kind of the prevalence of pornography from the beginning of time, if you will, to today. What would that timeline look like as far as like the availability and prevalence of pornography? Like pretty much zero, hinting towards something, and then just an escalation to an astronomical level that's growing each day today. Well, good heavens, that's a kind of scary curve that we're looking at right there. Let's look at kind of maybe what the beginnings look like. Obviously in the beginning there was some erotic cave paintings and pottery, hardly viewed as pornography today, and certainly most of that content didn't have the same intent. 1748, the very first book with a kind of an erotic novel was printed. Which was banned immediately at the time. And in 1908, the first pornographic film, 1908, the first pornographic film was created. And obviously that was very under the table, kind of dark alley kind of, you could only access it it was very difficult to get your hands on that kind of material. What about this? What about that time frame? What happened in that time frame? Many of you listening right now are kind of nodding your head going, well, obviously the internet. Yeah, the internet played a huge role, and we'll kind of show you that, how we got here. So let's kind of zoom up on that one little section, that one little kind of that circular section that we looked at. I want to point out that in 1948, Dr. Alfred Kinsey came out with research that he had done with no brain science backing it up. That they didn't have that knowledge. We weren't advanced at that time. So he was working with limited information, but he came out with research that indicated that all forms of sexual behavior should be normalized, regardless of age, and regardless of nature, and that was a big deal because that kind of sparked a revolution that businessmen capitalized on. Playboy hit the newsstands in 1953, which then kind of paved the way for many more. And that was the first moment that when Playboy hit the newsstands, that was the first time where the pornography industry actually became a legitimate, above ground, acceptable industry, because they put naked imagery next to articles about men's lifestyle and politics and sports and stuff. In 1970s, we had DVDs and VHS, and then later came DVDs, which brought it into the home, which is a big moment. And in 1993, the internet, obviously. Internet hit, and that changed the game forever. And today, in the 2000s, we now have what we call pocket porn. Kids, young kids are accessing internet pornography through internet-enabled device anywhere they are, at any time, just through Wi-Fi. So we really talk about how pornography became so accessible through the 4 A's. So prevalent through the 4 A's, and then the first one is accessible. It became obvious, all of a sudden available to anybody, anywhere, at any time. Affordable. In many cases, and in most cases, they offer their content for a portion of their content for free, and then by the time your addiction gets so severe, you need to pay for the full content. But it's affordable. Teens, they eat that free stuff up, and it's anonymous. In my opinion, the most dangerous of the four, due to the fact that just the anonymity, the secrecy, as opposed to other drugs where you smell like smoke or your eyes are dilated. The pornography, you can get away with it for much longer, and of course, it's still very addictive. So that's why it's so prevalent. What do you think the average age of exposure is to pornography? This is an old slide. We have 11 years old here, but in reality, we've seen research coming out that's showing it's 9 years old. Through our experience, through the thousands of emails that we've received from teens, we've had 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds contact us looking for help. I'm going to repeat that. One 7-year-old and a few 8-year-olds, and then on up. What? Young kids. And these aren't kids saying, oops, I saw it. They're saying, I can't stop. Okay, 9 out of 10 youth ages 8 to 16 have been exposed to pornography. I mean, it's really not a question of a question of if, but when, obviously. And I think that most of us are on board with that at this stage. Unwanted exposure to pornography is occurring. This is going to shock you. In most cases, at home, almost 80% of exposure to unwanted pornography is happening in the home. And that's the average. So this is really our domain as parents, and we should have more protection there. We should, and Nanny's really playing a role there, and providing a great tool for that. I definitely recommend looking into their product if you, and I assume that most of you listening have. Largest group of those accidentally exposed to pornography, this is your youth, 12 to 17. They are targeted. The porn industry really seeks them out. We'll talk about that. I already kind of addressed this issue. Girls often kind of tune out for this topic, but we're seeing, due to the fact that the marketing tactics of the pornography industry is changing and catering themselves more to women, we're seeing a lot more content geared to them. And of course, many of you have heard this statistic that the pornography industry is massive. The pornography industry makes more money than any of these organizations up on the screen: NBC, CBS, ABC, NBA, NHL, baseball, and football combined. So they have a lot of power, and they're very good at what they do. We're going to move on. I know that most of you are here because you want not to just to understand the issue and the prevalence, and I've spent so far kind of touching on that. You want to get to the real kind of the tips, that like, how do I talk to my teen? How do I address this? What can I do? What are the signs? And I'm getting there, so bear with me. But the third, they wish you knew, is that they wish you knew that they are being targeted. They're actually being targeted by the pornography industry. They're not just stumbling into it, the content that's geared for adults and and they're stumbling into it. The industry actually wants them. Why do you think that is? I'm going to ask that. Obviously, I'm not going to get responses, people raising their hand and answering right now, but ask yourself, why do you think that is? Here's the answer. If they can get an individual at a young age curious enough, they potentially have a lifelong client, because they're not dumb. They know their product is addictive. And if they can kind of get them to be curious, to stumble upon it, and then to kind of come back because of that natural curiosity, eventually they can turn that curiosity into a habit, and then to a compulsion, and then to an addiction. And by that time, they most likely will have the means to start paying for it. And it's all about money. We have several individuals that have talked to us and told us that, in fact, we have a girl out of Texas that stole her mom's credit card and put $40,000 of pornography on that card, and eventually was caught and had to go to rehab for an incredible amount of money. So definitely an issue. And just a quick email about this. I was searching for a school project. Sound familiar? I mean, from a video website that had a bunch of scientific videos on it, and one of those was a porn video. It didn't have any labels. It didn't have any warnings, Jessica. So let's talk about kind of these tactics that the pornographers are using to target your teens. Like, what are they doing? How are they doing it? And there are a lot more, but I'm just going to kind of go over just a couple, 5, as indicated by the slide, of these tactics. Number one, and I've talked about this, a lot of parents are confused. Well, if it's, how are teens getting it? If it's free, how are they making so much money? Well, they use free teaser images, the pornographers, because they know it's one of those products that kind of demands that attention and can be so addictive that people come back. So they can get those. They'll give short snippets of a video or portions of a photo shoot, and to get full access to the entire full-length video or the full photo shoot, you would need to pay. And most teens obviously spend their time in those free arenas until obviously it takes over and they either steal to pay for it, or they get old enough to have their own funds. Number two is innocent word searches. Many teens stumble. We had a parent just tell us this story, that he was on Google and he typed in water sports into Google Images. What do you think came up? Well, I think that we'd all imagine, jet skis, water skis, boats, something, and what came up was the first maybe several images were more geared for that, but then if you scroll down, it was definitely anything but actual water sports, and we'll just leave it at that. And he was appalled. And he didn't have his settings set with Google that he needed to do, but that's my point. The industry really targets that, and kind of coupled with that is number 3, cartoon characters and child icons. And coupled with innocent word searches, we had another teen that searched Disney princesses. She was young; she was like 13 years old, and she searched Disney princesses. And what do you think came up? Well, obviously you had your Jasmines and your Cinderellas and your Beauty and the Beast Bells and whatnot, but just scrolling down just a little further, you start to see those same characters involved in very explicit situations. And of course, what that is teaching to a teen is it really messes with their psyche, because all of a sudden they see this individual that they love, they trust, they've kind of built this strong loyalty and commitment and trust with this character participating in these activities, and it almost teaches these children, oh well, someday that's what I will do, or I'll participate, or that's something that's okay. And a lot of these behaviors that are depicted are not natural or not even legal. So a real issue in today's society. Pop-up banners and ads, definite issue. We see that as well as adults, of course, but they really target the youth with that, with the types of videos that they're playing, the types of things that they're seeing and exposed to, and the pages that they're on. They really target those types of specific pages. And the fifth one that I'll kind of draw attention to is the flash games, the free flash games. Now that's one that parents are like, "Oh, what's a flash game?" This is an internet-based game. Okay, and they usually kind of occur like on the side, and there's websites that have a ton of flash games, like pbs.org. pbs.org is a great website. You should allow your kids to that site, but there are other sites that are enticing and interesting and colorful and cartoony that entice a younger generation to involve themselves with that. And by the third or fourth level of a particular game, they'll start to introduce sexual content, and sometimes full-blown pornographic material, and it's really, really disturbing. So, I mean, all of that said, this is definitely something that you want to start to take control of. The pornography industry, they are huge, they are massive, they are good at what they do, and we always tell parents, if you don't educate your teens, the industry will, and you're not going to like what they teach them. Okay, so you need to start taking control of this, and not only on your internet-enabled devices, protection, but you need to start taking control of this in an educational way as well, teaching them what healthy sexuality looks like, what it is, what intimacy and love is, and what appropriate behaviors are for expressing love and whatnot. So here's the fourth they wish you knew. Anything coming through, RJ, that we need to address?
Yeah, we just have a couple people asking more of what ways can they prevent this from happening in the first place? Like these flash games, how do you prevent a child from accessing them or getting to them in the first place?
Great question. And obviously, without getting into the specific sites that to block, I think that software is definitely the best solution there. Software like Nanny, that they provide a software that's very intuitive, very strong, and very capable of protecting the internet and your children. And Nanny is also great because they have different levels for different users, and so you can protect your 8-year-old differently than you protect your 18-year-old, and you can kind of set parameters. So this isn't turning into like a commercial for Nanny, but I am a believer in what they do, and I am a believer in kind of the product that they have, and definitely getting that involved and really maximizing that software, calling them and working with their customer service to kind of maximize the software for your particular situation is going to be the best way to kind of counter a lot of these tactics that the industry is using. Does that adequately answer that?
Yeah, kind of going along with that, are there other kind of methods that you can tell if your child is already addicted? Is there a way to know?
Yeah. Okay. So this is always a funny question to me because parents say like, okay, so how do I know it? And we can describe it. We can say, okay, well, they start to be more secluded. They, the things that they used to really enjoy, they start to pull away from. They're a little bit more moody. And then we kind of stop ourselves and say, well, we just described 99% of teenagers. So it's pornography addiction is extremely hard to pick up on, and it really takes a very acute awareness of a particular child's standard behaviors. And so there, I wish there were kind of like a telltale sign. I'll give you a few, but you'd have to kind of weigh those against just normal teen moodiness. But definitely kind of wanting to be alone a lot, especially if there's a computer or an internet-enabled phone, smartphone with them, and they want to be home in their bedroom a lot, if they you find that they have a harder time connecting on a kind of more personal, not surface level. These are kind of things that to obviously be aware of and kind of like pick up on. I would say that pornography addiction is the most popular addiction among teens by far. I think there's no comparison. And so this is, we often hear, not my kid from parents, and statistically that's just not accurate. We would kind of push against that and say, look, there's little question in our mind that your kid has been exposed. And if you haven't been actively dialoguing with your children about kind of how to reject messages in the media that are negative or sexualized, and kind of how to recognize those and steer clear of them, then the likelihood is that their peers and the media have kind of swayed their opinions, and they will likely return to those sites. And if that continues over a course of time, they can really build up that habitual and compulsion, and possibly even an addictive state toward pornography. And we've seen that many, many times. So, how to recognize it. I mean, be just aware. Be very observant of your child as they grow through those teenage years, and be open about it. And be very direct about it. And actually, I'm about to get into some of those specifics here in a bit, if that's okay. You can kind of keep moving on, and I'm going to address some specifics in just a second. So the fourth they wish you knew is that they wish you knew that you, meaning the parent, you should talk to them about it. Now, you might think, no way do teens tell us that. That's just you trying to get us to talk to our kids. That's not true. The teenagers are constantly telling us how they wish their parents would have talked to them earlier. Here's a couple examples. I don't remember my parents talking to me about it until it had become a problem. I was 10 or 11. I wish I had understood the issue sooner. Matt, 19. Now, this is going to be a theme that you can kind of see. This is a theme that we see constantly with these emails that come in. Is it was addressed too late. Here's another one. I wish they knew how to address it and to speak about it openly and without feeling shy or disgusted. Olivia, 17. Another one, my parents never addressed porn until after it was too late, and they just said I wasn't allowed to go onto those sites. I was addicted to porn before I turned 11. Every chance I got, I'd watch it. Parents need to say more than you can't watch it. Then you can't watch. That they need to explain why and how it affects you. Kevin, 19. Like I said, there's a theme there. You need to address it. You need to address it more often than you think and sooner than you think. Like I've already mentioned this, too often we hear parents say, not my kid. And it's just, if every parent's saying that, well then we have no issue, and we know that's not true. So kind of put that to question and think about your particular scenario. I want to address this one too, the curiosity myth. A lot of parents think, well, if I talk to my kid about it, it'll spark their curiosity to go check it out. Well, I understand that one. I totally get it. But what we're finding through research and through surveys is that we're not introducing anything to these kids. And the parents that think that they are, to a 16-year-old, they're kind of saying, well, let's have a talk about pornography. It's like, wow, you've really missed the boat there, because teens are exposed to things at an increasingly younger and younger age, and they know what it is, and you need to take control of that conversation. So don't no longer ask yourself, will I introduce something to them? Obviously, let me put a grain of salt there. Kind of the point that I'm trying to make here is that you need to talk to them about this, period. but you need to do it with age-appropriate dialogue. And so obviously if you're talking to a 6 or 7-year-old, you're going to be using language that an 8-year-old, you're going to be talking to them with language that's maybe you won't even bring up the word pornography. Maybe you're going to be talking about no touch zones and kind of private areas and kind of what those types of things. Then you'll kind of move on and you'll progress. It's like this conversation needs to be like an onion that is layered and ongoing. When should I start the conversation? We get this question all the time. When? Give me an age. Well, obviously that depends on the particular maturity level of a particular child, the dynamics of the family, the culture and of the environment that they're living in. But this is the safest way I can say this: earlier than you think, sooner than you think. And again, do it with age-appropriate dialogue and do it the right way, but sooner than you think. The days of glossing over the birds and the bees, once, are long gone. Please, if you're one of those parents that kind of think, well, phew, I just told him he knows everything he needs to know, or we just had the conversation with so and she's good to go. That is just not the case, and put that behind you. This is an ongoing dialogue. We were doing a conversation or a presentation like this in D.C., and we had a parent there who, all the parents there were kind of asking, well, how do I bring this up? It's so awkward. It's challenging, which is kind of my next slide. How do I bring this up? And we had a parent there who said, it's not that big a deal for me. And everyone just zoned in right to her, like, what? How did you get that? What did you do? And she just said, I can't remember the first time we talked about it. It's been an ongoing dialogue in our family for years on a one-on-one basis. And now if he gets exposed to it, he runs in the bedroom and says, hey, Mom, what do I do? I saw this. And how many of you have young teenage boys that do that? I mean, that's just awesome. When I heard that, I was like, awesome, that's so cool. So, obviously it's an ongoing, layered conversation. I'm going to give you a few tips on that. So how do I bring it up? First of all, get educated. Okay, this webinar is the tip of the iceberg of what you really need, okay? Continue to learn about what this is, the prevalence of this, what the problem is, and continue to learn about what the harmful effects are on both an individual, on a relational, and on a societal level, so that when you talk to your kids, it's not just don't do it because it's wrong. Okay? When we talk to our kids about the harmful effects of smoking, we don't just say, hey, don't smoke because it's wrong. I bet you every one of you out there, when you said don't smoke, you said don't smoke because it's wrong. Oh yeah, and it'll kill you. We always add the why. So why do we not add the why with this topic? We need to add the why. Why shouldn't I look at porn? Well, this is what it can lead to neurologically. This is what it can lead to relationally. This is what it can lead to in our society and as a culture. Boom, and they'll get behind that and say, wow, I don't like any of those things. Number 2, take time to talk. Don't have a conversation right as you have a meeting that starts in 20 minutes. You're on your way something with a destination that's going to kind of stop that flow. Definitely don't do that. Make sure that you have the appropriate time to talk. Because it might be in the 45th minute of your conversation that your child finally decides to open up and kind of be real with you. And so allow for that. Find the right place. And make sure that the child feels comfortable and peaceful and at home and somewhere where they can kind of open up and not feel like there are others listening in or kind of just an uncomfortable environment in general. Number 5. Make it one-on-one. Now, I'm all about the family gatherings where you kind of say, okay, let's talk about the harmful effects of pornography, and you've got a 10-year-old and all the way up to an 18-year-old. Sure, those are great, but don't let that take the place of the one-on-ones. Make sure that you take time to meet one-on-one with each of your children and have a real conversation with them, a real one. Number 5, and this is a big one. In fact, this is a real big one. Number 5, stay calm. Breathe. Okay, this is your flesh and blood. I get it. If all of a sudden you discover that they're looking at it, if they open up to you, or if you find them out, and whatever it is, your knee-jerk reaction is that how could you refrain from that? Don't do that. I can promise you that if you do react in a negative way, they're going to be far less likely to continue to open up to you or open to you up to you in the first place. Stay calm. Don't judge. Be there for them. Love them. And through that process, you will find your child will open up to you and share things with you, share their struggles, say, Mom, Dad, yeah, it's been hard. I'm not going to lie. It's been something I've been dealing with for the last few months, and I'd like to stop, but I need your help. And in that moment, you can stay calm and you won't judge because you know that you weren't perfect as a kid, and you can kind of take that situation and really help them. Okay, so those are the 6 things that I wanted to talk about there. Kind of speeding up here. What should I say? What should I say? I get it. Okay, I know that I need to have the one-on-one. I know that I need to talk with them often. It needs to be layered, but I have no idea what I should say. This is where that it can be awkward if we let it be awkward. It doesn't need to be. First of all, we would always often say in those like one-on-ones, we'd say ask questions. Listen. Ask them, like, hey, so how did you feel when you saw that? How did that make you feel? And what did you want to do afterward? Or kind of what were the steps leading up to that? Just out of curiosity, a very non-judgmental approach to ask questions, and just let them talk. Let them take over the conversation, and you just be there to listen and ask questions. Then, once you've kind of opened up those doors of communication, teach them the facts. This is the one that a lot of parents glaze over. Teach them the facts. And we've kind of talked briefly about those in this presentation, but again, you need to go out and continue to learn so that you can teach them science and facts, along with your family, your particular family values, whatever those values may be. You can kind of say, we don't believe that you should do this because of X, Y, and Z. And then, obviously, along with those facts. And then the 4th one is repeat. So this is the model that you want to take with your kid. When you go out and teach, or when you go have those one-on-ones with your child, this is the 4-step process. Ask questions. Listen, and ask questions and listen, I should add. Teach them the facts. Share your family values and repeat. And that ongoing spiral process will lead to a much healthier relationship between you and your child. I believe this is the last "They Wish You Knew." Yes, this is the last. Are we good? Okay, this is the last "They Wish You Knew." And so we'll be quick on this one. They wish you knew that you are a part of the solution. You are a part of the solution. If you, by chance, come across one of your children that is, in fact, dealing with an issue here, you are a major part of that solution, okay? I wish they would have gotten me counseling and support and other help while it was still new. I wish that it would have been something we could have talked about before I hit bottom. Okay, we have kind of this wheel that we often talk about pornography prevention. Be prepared, pay attention, help protect, set a standard, and be an example. Be prepared, pay attention, help protect, set a standard, and be an example. Briefly, be prepared talks about getting educated. And I'm just going to give you a few resources that you can kind of go to right now to kind of continue your education. FightTheNewDrug.org, PornHarms.com, FreedByTruth.com, Enough.org, AntiPornography.org, OvercomingPornography.org, iKeepSafe.org, and there are so many others. Just continue to learn, and if you can't write these down in time, fightingadrug.org, we have a resources page that you can go to, and all of these are listed on that page. There are books that you can continue to read about the harmful effects and how to address your teens. Big Pornography. I will warn on that first one, though. That is a heavy read and a difficult read. I wouldn't. But it really kind of unveils the harms that the industry is pushing. So anyway, those are some books. The last one you'll notice is Fortify: A Step Toward Recovery. That is the book that we've written for teens that walks them through how to kind of recover, and it does a lot of education. So and I'll kind of show you that at the very end. Pay attention. Pay attention. Ask yourself, what games and gaming devices do your children own? Do your children have access to the internet on those devices? What magazines are accessible to your children? How are your children using their cell phones? What kinds of text messages are your children sending/receiving? A lot of kids are going to be dealing with this issue, and they're going to need help. And the more we learn about kind of this issue and what pornography addiction really is, the more we realize that professional help is often necessary. So I'm going to give you a few. The LifeStarNetwork.org, CandeoBehaviorChange.com, which is an online program, Integral, which is another online program, SonsOfHelaman.com, SALifeline.com for more adults and families, LDS Family Services, and the FortifyProgram.com, which is about to launch. The FortifyProgram.com is coming. It'll be at the end of the month. It is a free program for teens. That's what we're launching. We've spent 2 years on it with a team of neurologists and therapists. We've put hundreds of thousands into the development of the program. We're very excited about it. We have over 5,000 pre-registrations for the program so far. So if it is something that you're interested in, go to fightingadrug.org and pre-register for that program. Next, set a standard, okay? We often say establish an agreement with your family, not for your family, but with your family, and involve your kids in establishing that agreement. Because once they understand the harmful effects of pornography, once they're on board with you, kind of like, well, this is what it's doing to our society, this is what it's doing to individuals and relationships, they're going to be right there with you to kind of say, you know what, we got to protect ourselves. You know what we should not get online after 10 p.m., no internet after 10 p.m. Oh, that's a great idea. And together, collectively, you create this family standard, and that will that you all kind of live by. Help protect. We say filter internet-enabled devices. Period. Filter them. Don't even put it to chance, and supervise those devices. Get familiar with the controls and supervise them often. And here is, I don't know if you guys have heard of this company called Nanny, but you can check them out. They have some pretty good solutions there. Lastly, be an example, okay? If you're telling your kids to do one thing, you've got to obviously back it up, okay? Don't tell them to live a certain way and you live another way. If you say you can't have any dirty magazines, you had better not have any dirty magazines yourself, okay? And that goes for internet behaviors and kind of the restrictions that you set there as well. Be an example as a family, as leaders of that family. So those are the 5 things for kind of the prevention side. There's a lot more that we can talk about that we don't have time for, but if you are interested, we have this product called the Guideline, and it's something that we sell on our website. And it actually goes through several of the issues that we've talked about, but in more detail, and it covers other things that we have not yet covered. And actually, I believe that we're actually going to be offering this to you for free. We're actually going to be sending you a free download if you help me out here.
Yeah. So, I really don't want to cut you off. You're sounding wonderful right now, but we would like you to email us. I'm going to try to send that email out to you because we don't have a slide with it on. Let me know if you're seeing that. It should be in your comment section. If not, I'll stay a little bit after the webinar to make sure you get that email. Email us. And we had so many questions today, so many great questions, and the hour's already up. We would love to answer each one. But if you could email us your question, not only will we respond to the question, we'll also send out that link to get this guide in PDF format for free.
Yes.
Along with that, we also wanted to hand out 10 free copies of Net Nanny. Now, I'm pretty sure many of you already have Net Nanny, but you can choose which version you'd like, whether it be for the iPhone or the Android or PC or Mac. So and if you don't want it, we'd give it out to somebody else who might need it. But so we'll take all those emails and we'll randomly select 10 of those, and we'll send out that that code for the free Net Nanny software for you.
Awesome. And then the guideline will be available to anybody that sends that email in.
Yes, everybody will receive a link to the guideline regardless.
Okay, and the last thing I'm going to mention before I conclude here, and I apologize I've gone a little over, but we have a book that we just released, which is basically the script form of the online program that we're releasing. That's a video-based program, but this is the book version of that program, and we released it early because we knew that there were so many that were in need, and this is a book that is catered for youth to kind of educate them, give them the tools and resources to kind of combat their compulsion or addiction to pornography. We have sold thousands of these, and it's really awesome to see the response from the youth. And so if you need it now, if you can't wait, and if you prefer a paper version, go to our website, fightthenewdrug.org, and pick up a copy. We also sell a fortified kit that has a little bit more involved. But if you want to wait and hold on for just another month or two, we're going to have a free online version that is very dynamic, video-based, we're very excited about it, and so you can hold on to that. But I just want to thank Net Nanny and thank all of you for listening for the time that we've been here. We are very excited to be doing what we're doing, to kind of going out and educating people, and we just encourage you to all become a fighter and participate in the movement. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Clay. We really appreciate that. Just as kind of a final question, we're getting a lot of questions about how people can contact you to maybe talk to their schools or come to the station.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't even mention that. We do go to schools. We go to and you can contact me at you can contact us at info@fightthenewdrug.org is probably the best way to get a hold of us. On our website, there's another way of form you can fill out, but really just contact us at info@fightthenewdrug.org, and we can kind of start to look at the scheduling that we have. Fall's kind of full, but we can look at the spring, and we might be able to squeeze you in. But yeah, we go all over, so we've got multiple presenters, and we love it.
All right, thanks, Clay. Once again, if you still haven't seen that email, just personally message me. I'll stay here a little bit after to make sure everybody gets that email. But yeah, send in your questions. We really want to make sure that everybody gets their question answered. And hopefully in the future, we'll be able to use the webinars to answer many more of your questions. But thank you so much for coming to the webinar this month. We'll be sure to have one next month. And, we're excited to see you guys there again.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.